We're doing Tanya for Tuesday, the 14th of Av, July 28th. So we are, how did we get here? Yesterday we started epistle 5, letter 5 of the Alter Rebbe. He talked about, how David made a name for himself, his heroism. But we segue there that, a name is really, it's a lot about a divine name. What's a divine name? What's God's name? One of God's name is the Yud K and the Vav K, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey, which is the most essential name. It is the source of all creation. We spoke about this before. The Yud represents, the genesis of the flow. The Hey is now the expansion. It's a much bigger letter, vertical and horizontal, showing, expansion. And the other letters we want to talk about, the Vav and the Hey, we talked in other times about it. Here we said that the Yud and the Hey, the Talmud says that from the Yud, God created the world to come, a.k.a. the Garden of Eden, a.k.a. what we call the afterlife, a.k.a. heaven. And from the Hey, God created the physical world. Okay. So we got into a whole thing about the mystery of speech yesterday. The phenomenon of human speech. On one hand, when you speak, you're conveying your thoughts. On the other hand, the natural, someone ring the doorbell? The natural instinct, how when you want your mouth to make certain sounds, it automatically purses the lips or whatever, any parts of the articulating organs, the tongue, teeth, throat, palate, whatever. That does not come from your conscious thought. That is rooted in your subconscious. Just to give you a little bit interesting, just to give you a little more philosophical terms, the thought, the idea that you want to convey is the light, and the organs of articulation, the throat, the tongue, all that is the vessel. They're not, your thought does not, your idea does not then consciously purse the lips to do whatever, to speak it out. These are actually two mechanisms: the thought, the ideas in the intellect, and then the light. Yeah.
Your workers that need to go upstairs, what should I tell them?
You want
now. They don't have to go up now, but they will be able.
Yeah, they can take my keys, I guess.
To come see Rabbi Hein?
Yeah. Tell them get my keys from my place. I'll get my keys.
It might be a while.
Okay, fine. So these two mechanisms, the idea and the vessel, the speaking vessels, are two parallel operating systems. Obviously, there's a connection between what a person thinks and what he says. It's not a linear progression from the thought to the speech. The letters of speech are rooted deeper than thought. Again, the subconscious. Not only do the letters receive from the thought process in an almost mechanical fashion, but as you can sometimes see, the letters of speech also impact the thought. And so when you speak something out, you think it deeper. When you teach it, you think it deeper, right? So we find weird how the speech, albeit a more physicalized, maybe more crass, not as refined as the neurons of the intellect, but in a way, it's a different system that's even deeper that can affect the neurons of the intellect. Very fascinating. We see this even more in writing. It gives the Steinsaltz commentary. When you record your thoughts in writing and compare what you wanted to say and what you wrote, a discrepancy arises between your thoughts and your writing. Um, Every person feels it's impossible to fully express in speech or in writing what you think. So obviously, in a way, the speech or writing being even more is a more crass, a more distinct, limited form of your expression. But there's another side to the discrepancy between speech and thought. Occasionally, when you want to capture your thoughts in writing, it becomes clear the words that emerge on the page can be highly superior to original thought. Sometimes the difference is subtle, sometimes it is significant. Often a person discovers underpinnings behind what you write or you speak. They're not noticeable in your initial thought. Sometimes the outcome is surprisingly better in the writing and speech than your own thought, and that shocks the creator of this whole writing.
Whoa.
So we see that speech process is more than just a simple linear progression in which pure abstract thought progressively gets degraded into a more, specific format. The second mechanism, so that's the bottom line. Thinking is its own operating system, and there's a parallel but a different operating system called speech, or gives an example, writing. They work somewhat together, but they are coming from two different parts of the psyche. The thought comes from the conscious self, the conscious part of the soul, and the speech comes from the subconscious. And they're somewhat parallel or not exact. Okay, that's very fascinating. Another interesting thing about speech. There's another commentary of the Steinsaltz commentary. A parrot can make sounds, right? You can't compare it to human speech. On the other hand, there's animals that have a very high level of intelligence, dolphins, for example. Yet clearly, this intelligence does not find expression in the spoken word. Obviously, there's a certain defined shift between animal sounds and the concept of our speech.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between them is more than just two distinct systems of meaningful symbols. The sounds that animals make are inborn, ingrained in their nature. These sounds sometimes convey some symbolic meaning, but mostly express emotions, instinct. One can posit the language of animals as a language almost entirely of interjections, almost completely without nouns, is his positing. Human speech, on the other hand, not only as a medium of communication, but as a medium for the expression of content, is a uniquely human act, rooted in a place that is higher than the human cognitive process. The definition of humans as speakers, which, by the way, in Latin, we call the name is Homo sapiens. But in Hebrew, we call it medaber, the speaking species. That becomes very much indicative. We're not called the thinking species, we're called the speaking species because of this enigma, this mystery of speech being rooted in a way higher than conscious thought. So our speech isn't just speech. Our speech is really rooted in a subconscious part of the psyche that is unique to the human being to do not just the thinking, but the expressing via speech of the content. Clearly, there's a deep significance, particularly to words, to the carriers of concepts, which are the basic symbols of speech. Words are not just instruments for transmitting content. Every word has a particular weight. The word or combination of words encompasses a certain direction of thought. Every so often, new words are even invented to allow for the expression of new content that did not exist beforehand in the popular parlance. In George Orwell, in his book 1984, he relates how to prevent an entire society from thinking heretical thoughts. By taking certain words out of the dictionary and out of usage, the possibility of thinking related thoughts becomes more difficult or impossible. Even if a person senses something is not right, he doesn't have the words to express it to others and even himself. We see how crucial words are. The use of a particular word creates the possibility of thought to the extent that without certain foundational words in a given field, the idea cannot endure. This is not really so vital to understanding the Tanya, but it does give a little bit of appreciation of how words are such a spiritual phenomenon. Okay, but now we're going to continue on today's Tanya, page 69. Just explain what he's going to be, to preface what the Alter Rebbe is addressing. Going back to the Talmud said that the name of Yud and Hey, one of the names of God, or part of the big name of the two letters of the four-letter name. The Yud creates the world to come, the spiritual, the heaven, and the Hey creates the physical world. Now, based on this whole metaphor from the human being, how speech is a phenomenon, that on one hand, it's very physical. It's using the organs of articulation to sound it out in a very audible, more tangible way. We should take this creaky chair away. On the other hand, it is rooted in a very deep subconscious part of the soul. So if you're telling me, and that's why, so bottom line, speech is very deep. And that gives us a little bit of understanding of why the spiritual world that we call the Garden of Eden, aka heaven, afterlife, it comes from the letter Yud, which is the written or the spoken word, as a metaphor for this very high spiritual place. And that's okay, because all speech, we said, originates in a deeper place than conscious thought. If that is the case, then we have a question, an unspoken question. Shouldn't the other letter of this equation, the Hey, also be a spiritual world? Why does that come to be, so to speak, the symbol of creation of the physical world, which is, a lower, not as deep as the subconscious? Every letter should be pointing to a subconscious type of spiritual reality. Why does this letter, however, the letter Hey, create or consider the source of a very physicalized world? So this is the other side of the coin of speech. However, the letters exist on planes of matter and form, which are also referred to as their internal aspect and their external aspect. So a very big term in Jewish philosophy, not only Hasidic or Kabbalistic, even in medieval Jewish philosophers, is chomer and surah. Chomer means literally matter, and surah means form. But it doesn't mean like the sketch of this cup. The sketch of this cup is the form, and the physical paper of the cup is the matter. It's more than that. It's the form really is a term for the conceptual, this conceptual sketching. Like a cup is an idea. It's a receptacle. It allows, right? It's a metaphysical idea that can be, it can be created into a physical paper cup, but the form is more of its like spiritual concept, its metaphysical concept. Mm-hmm. And the matter is, the way it, now it has meat and potatoes. It's kind of like something you can really, you can hold and grasp, touch, see. So letters also have matter and form. The matter means the body of the letters, and then you have, I guess, the way they come out, and then you have the ideas of the letters, I think. Yeah. The form is a composite of characteristics of the thing, the essence of the thing. And then there's the matter itself. So too letters. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, right? Is it a duck? I'd say yes, it's a duck. There's an idea of a duck, and then there's an actual duck. A letter, whether spoken or written, has two facets. It has meaning, and combining them makes words and a message. Then there's the mechanical framework, how you speak out the letter, how you write it in, how does the aleph or the A look? So there's the meaning of the letter, and then there's the mechanical, how you get it out, how it exists in a actual form. Okay, that's good enough to go. Although their source, we said all letters, the source we said is in the subconscious and in the will, the subconscious will of the soul. This is but the tzura, the form of the differentiation and the pronunciation of the 22 letters, meaning the idea of a letter as a material, as a nuance that can be creating content or expression. That's the form. That's the metaphysical idea of the letter. That exists in the subconscious part of the soul. But the matter and body of their formation, I mean the aspect of the external aspect. In Hasidus talks about internal versus external. Internal is the way the thing relates to itself, not the way it's depicting or utilitarianism of itself, but there's a way it relates to. So then there's the external, there's the how it shows up and is being depicted to others, to outside, to relationship with the greater, world. So the internal is going to be the form, the metaphysical idea of the letter, the agent of meaning, and then there's the way it's written out and spoken. That's the body. The body, which we said is the external aspect of the letter, is the breath issuing from the heart. Where do you get a hey or an aleph or a bet? It originates with breath. From this breath is formed a simple sound which proceeds from the throat. All breath originates, let's say, from the heart or from the respiratory organs, and then it comes out to the throat. And then in the throat, that's where it's divided up into the 22 kinds of enunciation and expression of the 22 letters. You go ha, and then Beis, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled, Hey. These divisions taking place through the 5 known organs of speech, Aleph, Chet, Hey, Ayin, through this throat. There's 5 organs of speech. So it doesn't go through all of them, but the Aleph, Chet, Hey, Ayin are all throat letters. Aleph, Chet, Ayin, Hey. They need their way of slight nuances of the throat. And then there's the palate, Gimel. Right? Your tongue has to go to the palate. Gimel, Kuf. Kaf, etc. Yud. Try it out. Mute yourself and try it out. While
Where were those from again?
Aleph, Chet,
Not the throat.
throat. Aleph,
Aleph.
the Gimel,
Oh,
Yud,
sorry, I got the throat. It's the Gimel, Kuf,
Yud,
Kaf, and Yud.
palate.
Palate, like
Gimel. Get. You need to your tongue has to go up a little bit to your palate. The Gimel, like the back part of the palate. Yeah, top of the mouth. Gimel, Kuf.
Okay.
It's kind of the back part of the palate, almost the throat. But by the way, interesting to note, there's Sephardic and Ashkenazic pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to a class on that. There is the way the alphabet changes depending on where you are, your dialect, and where you live in the world. There's certain ways that not Israeli, because Israel's not really Sephardic or Ashkenazic. It's kind of a mixture. It's like a hybrid. But real Sephardic pronunciation is like they do like hat. Letters that we don't are not easy for us to do. So they kind of like made it easier in Israeli pronunciation. Hat.
Can you pronounce the ayin the way it's supposed to be pronounced?
I know. I don't know. The Sephardim, some Sephardim do. It's like it's extremely like guttural, but I don't know how to do it. You can Google it.
You remember Sam Asher? May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
He could do it. It was natural to him.
Right. Egyptian. Egyptian pronunciation. The old Sephardic Egyptian community. All right, let's go on. Now, those are all, when we do the letters, that's already the organs of articulation. While the breath itself, the pure breath, when it comes up from the heart, the respiratory organs out, it is uttered by the letter Hey. Hey is like a breath, it's like a wheezing, letter. Even Hey, how do you pronounce it exactly? But the point is, that's the most breath type of letter.
Mm-hmm.
It's called in the liturgy, we call the Hey the light letter, because it's not like so much of the outer part of the mouth. It's just kind of it's just like the most unadulterated breath letter. Hey, it's called light, not pure.
Mm-hmm.
Which that breath is the source of the matter and body of the letters before their division. So the way that your psyche, your subconscious makes your mouth purse the lips and whatever to then make certain sounds, that's that's rooted in the breath. Okay, and the breath we know is 1 second. So the Hey is the source of all the other 22 Hebrew letters, specific form directions. And that is why we're going to stop. This is the end of today's Tanya. This is what gets back to our original question. Why does this physical world, why is it created from the letter Hey? Because that shows that, yes, on some level, all letters come from a very deep subconscious place. And in God, that would be a very deep place, or some type of deep depiction of godliness. But there's source of things and there's source of source. So the reality is a letter has both a metaphysical meaning and also a specific physical format. So the metaphysical meaning, because that's rooted in the subconscious purely. But the physical articulation of the letters, that is a source before it's sourced that's sourced in the breath, which is more physicalized compared to the subconscious. So that's why it says the letter Hey creates the physical world, because I think it shows a certain on one hand, the world is a beautiful metaphysical depiction of God's plan.
Mhm.
On the other hand, it's very physical.
Mhm.
So you could say the metaphysics of it, the form, that comes from the subconscious. But the physical, that would be, has its own kind of source in the quote unquote breath. Okay.
Breath
Listen,
is the neshama, is it? And I think it's maybe
breath comes from
referring
the
to our.
neshama. Yeah, but isn't thought also come from the neshama?
Yeah, but the neshama means breath, I think, almost.
Now, neshama shares the root word of neshima, which means breath. And yes, breath is something where you see it's a symptom. Breath is a very
The
clear.
neshama is the soul. The soul is, I mean, that's as close to
Is
God
the
as you
soul-
can get.
Is the soul only physical breath? No, the soul's more than that. However, breath is its kind of, expression in a very tangible way. But the soul is beyond the breath. The person dies and doesn't breathe. They still have a neshama.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So the point we're saying is, on one hand, this gets back to the neshama is really this otherworldly, it's an otherworldly thing. It's not it's not even dependent on its physical tethering to the body. And we're just seeing little aspects of the neshama has, the conscious thought, it has the subconscious thought, it has the ability to then energize, activate the respiratory organs and breathe. And when we say that God creates the world with letters, when we take that a little seriously, we see it means different. There's a lot of different angles you go with that. On one hand, there's God creates a physical form. Okay, that's rooted in the breath, the cosmic breath. On the other hand, you see there's great intelligence in creation. That may be rooted in the psyche, in the subconscious, the cosmic subconscious. But be it as it may, we end off with understanding a little bit of the Talmud's saying that the world to come, the spiritual world, the Garden of Eden, that is rooted in the letter Yud, which represents a unspecified, the kind of more the rootedness of the letters in the subconscious. That's why the Garden of Eden is a conceptual, metaphysical world, because it's created from this letter that represents the subconscious rootedness of the letters. And the physical world is sourced in the letter Hey, which is already more breath. It's more physicalized.